Podemos?
Sim.
Foi qual?
Podemos?
Sim.
Então, boa noite a todos. É uma honra estarmos aqui no nosso EPIC de 2021, onde a gente está cheio de perspectivas, cheio de vontade de fazer e fazer diferente, né? Depois de um ano de pandemia em 2020, onde a gente também conseguiu fazer, mas em 2021 com um sabor diferenciado, né? De uma sensação aí de uma vida que retorna ao normal e mesmo de modo remoto, agradecendo a presença dos nossos alunos, nossos participantes, a todos os nossos inscritos, né? E esse ano, um diferencial onde a gente tem a honra de receber um convidado diretamente dos Estados Unidos, que vai poder falar para vocês um pouquinho aí, né? Dar uma palavrinha com os nossos acadêmicos. Dale Johnson, muito obrigada por estar aqui na FATEB. Para nós é uma honra ter alguém como você, que com certeza traz um diferencial e faz do nosso evento um evento especial. Pode ter certeza que a gente jamais, e sendo bem honesta contigo, jamais teve a oportunidade de receber alguém com o seu renome, com a sua bagagem, com tudo que você tem para trazer para nós. É um diferencial, ainda mais nesse ano em que a nossa instituição consegue a consagração para centro universitário, né? Então a gente passa de um status de faculdade para centro universitário, a gente só aguarda a publicação no Diário Oficial do MEC e a gente sabe que a gente vem numa ascendente, numa crescente de muitas inovações, de muitas transformações, e o nosso EPIC é um dos eventos que culminam para isso. Então, ter você aqui, né, trazendo um pouquinho da sua experiência para os nossos acadêmicos, para os nossos professores, é algo realmente muito especial. Eu hoje estou falando com vocês e são coisas que a tecnologia e que a pandemia nos possibilitaram, né? Eu estou falando com vocês aqui de São Paulo, onde eu estou participando de um fórum, o maior fórum do Brasil sobre educação. E a gente está vendo os nossos professores e a equipe de frente do EPIC posicionada aí no nosso centro de eventos, a nossa sala Conecta. E eu estou aqui então no quarto de hotel onde eu consegui me colocar para poder falar com vocês de uma maneira dinâmica e interativa. E eu tenho certeza que esse é um modelo do novo normal, que já nem é mais tão novo assim, mas que passa a ser normal, e a gente tem que entender os benefícios da pandemia em prol disso aí, né? Porque talvez em tempos sem pandemia nós ainda pensássemos no modelo muito convencional e seria muito difícil, por exemplo, trazer alguém como o Dale para a FATEB, né? E aí a gente vê o quanto a gente tem que encarar como bom, como benefícios mesmo e como, enfim, uma quebra de paradigma. A gente poder fazer um evento dessa natureza, eu estando em São Paulo, os nossos professores e organizadores estando na FATEB, os nossos alunos estando cada um num local, os nossos inscritos, né, em vários lugares do Brasil, e aí tendo um convidado que está lá nos Estados Unidos e que traz para nós essa honra, né, de poder participar e sentirmos a sua presença mesmo de perto, mesmo que estando à distância. São o que a tecnologia e o que a pandemia nos trouxe de melhor. Então, com isso, eu quero desejar a todos os nossos participantes um excelente evento, de muito aprendizado, de muita troca, né? A gente sabe que a iniciação científica é um caminho que precisa ser percorrido pelos nossos alunos, e a gente tem trabalhado cada vez mais, Dale, para que desde o primeiro ano na FATEB o aluno entenda que ele precisa disso para ter uma formação diferenciada, e é o que a gente vem tentando trazer como cultura para que a FATEB seja cada vez mais forte na pesquisa, na iniciação científica, agora como centro universitário. E eu quero te desejar as boas-vindas, dizer realmente que é uma honra te receber aqui. Na sequência eu passo a palavra para a professora Sandra, que vai então fazer a sequência da nossa abertura. E agradecer então mais uma vez a todos vocês que estão nos assistindo, e a você especialmente, Dale, porque é uma honra sem tamanho. Espero um dia poder te receber pessoalmente na nossa instituição. Tenho certeza que você vai gostar bastante. Tá bom?
Passo para você.
Muito obrigada
Passo para
e um bom evento a todos vocês. Professora Sandra, com você.
Obrigada, Paula. Eu passo inicialmente a palavra à professora Kelly.
Thank you, our General Director, Paula, for your words. Thank you for the audience, presential or in our social networks. This talk will be shown by institutional YouTube channel. Let's start our meeting called EPIC 2021. At this moment, I will introduce the component members of this table. Professor Douglas Dal Molin. He is chair of health science at this university, at this faculty of Telemaco Borba. And the Professor Sandra Regina Merlot. She is chair of the human science at this institute. And I introduced me. My name is Kelly, and I represent the chair of the engineers and the natural science at this institution. Thank you and welcome everyone. And at this moment, Professor Douglas talked us about the beginnings in scientific researches, and after this we receive a little reception about in Portuguese with Professor Sandra.
Thank you, Professor Kelly. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to the presents and everyone in social media. The FATEB's Research and Scientific Initiation Meeting is an event performed annually to offer a space to discuss and show scientific knowledge, promotion and interactive practice between higher education institutions. This way, we create an exclusive moment to discuss the scientific production of all participants, support the intellectual development of graduate and postgraduate students, scientific research beginners and professors in many different areas of knowledge. And I have in my hands the last year papers already published in 2 books in this same event in 2020, and now we have new papers to have a publishment in new books to next year. So thank you to all professionals, all researchers, all students. They liked and participating with us in this event. The Scientific Initiation Program encourages research in different groups of students and advisors in the areas of health, humanities, applied social, natural sciences, and engineering. Teachers receive a financial incentive, while students receive discounts on postgraduate courses offered by the institution. In addition to academic and professional development, improving the curriculum of participants and disseminating scientific results.
Bom, obrigada, professor Douglas. Bom, boa noite a todos que estão aí nos assistindo. Sejam todos bem-vindos ao EPIC, o 8º encontro de pesquisa e o 12º encontro de iniciação científica da FATEB. O EPIC é o Encontro de Pesquisa e Iniciação Científica da FATEB e é um evento realizado anualmente para proporcionar à comunidade acadêmica um espaço próprio para a discussão e divulgação do conhecimento científico, bem como a promoção e a interação das atividades de pesquisas desenvolvidas em instituições de ensino superior. As apresentações se iniciam hoje, a partir das 20 horas, e se estendem até sexta-feira, no dia 29 de novembro. Eu passo a palavra novamente para a professora Kelly.
Thank you, Douglas. Thank you, Sandra. Now, I would like to introduce our invited speaker, Professor Dale Johnson at Arizona State University. A brief bio of Professor Dale shows our experience in education. Professor Dale is Director of Digital Innovation, and he works with leads to development and implement digital solutions to enable student success. Professor, the audience is yours. We in this table and in this institution welcome to your presence.
Obrigado, Kelly. Thank you all for joining us here today for my talk on learning science observations on the future of education. As Kelly was just introducing me, I was thinking about all of the experiences I've had in the United States, in Spain, and in Brazil as part of my education, both as a student and as a professional. I had the chance to visit Brazil several times as part of the Semestre STEM programs, and I've worked with professors from Dom Bosco in the past. So I'm excited to be back talking to you again today. I have been working in education for over 30 years, and I have an associate's degree in engineering, a bachelor's degree in design and architecture, and a master's degree from Harvard in public policy. So I have quite a span of different experiences in my own education. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about sort of the experience that I've had working at the University Design Institute. We are a part of Arizona State University that supports our colleagues all over the world at 66 different universities in 20 different countries. And as I mentioned, I've been honored to be invited to Brazil several times. We focus on a number of areas in the Digital Transformation Initiative, starting with leadership, teaching and learning, instructional infrastructure, student experience, and partnerships. And our primary goal is to create capacity to thrive in this changing digital educational environment. You're all working under very stressful conditions with the pandemic and the transformation in the pedagogy happening so quickly. So my goal is to help make your life easier and to provide you with some support so that you can develop the capacity to succeed and thrive. Arizona State University is in the southwestern part of the United States, close to Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and we share our border with Mexico. The state is known for the Grand Canyon. If you ever come to visit, we would love to show you one of the 7 wonders of the world. We also are quite famous for the saguaro cactus, which is our state tree. And you'll see there are a number of cacti that are native to Arizona that are unique. The university is located in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. We are a public research university with approximately 140,000 students. One of the recent developments is our growth online. We have expanded over the past 10 years to offer 65,000 students a chance to study entirely online. We have over 250 degree programs, which you can complete totally online. And we're proud of the fact that we've been able to reach more members of our community and provide more social benefit for our state. We are also quite famous for being #1 in innovation for 7 years in a row. This is a point of pride for us, and what I'll talk about today is related to that. The digital transformation of teaching and learning is a cornerstone of what we're doing to innovate in education. I'll start off with these phrases to give you some context for what I'm going to talk about. First, I like to describe the challenge that the future is already here. We are living with a transformative technology and a transformative opportunity in education. This technology is transforming student expectations. Even if we didn't change one thing about our teaching, our students have changed dramatically in the last 10 years because of the technology that they have access to. We also believe every student has unique educational needs. This is a fundamental principle that we built our new teaching and learning programs around. We believe that students learn better with interactive learning, and I'll talk more about each of these in detail as the program goes on. But I wanted to give you the roadmap right now, and then we'll dig into each one. And then finally, the instructor's role is shifting from lecturer to leader. This is a very important component of the transformation. Everything depends upon the teacher. And the important part of this conversation is that you, as teachers, are making an effort to transform your pedagogy to enable a greater student success. So let me talk about the first element. The future is already here. The finishing part of that sentence is it's just not evenly distributed. One of the challenges we face is that there's so much technology, it's hard to figure out what is helpful and what is not. And in this case, I wanted to ask you, I wish I had a polling feature. How many of you have worked with Pokemon Go or played Pokemon Go over the past 5 years? It was quite a phenomenon. One summer, it basically took over the world and became the most popular game in a matter of months. And the reality was, this is a potential teaching tool. Pokemon Go is providing us with a glimpse into the future. The use of augmented reality is a very powerful teaching tool. So as you think about your teaching, what you might consider to be just your phone could become a very, very powerful teaching tool as you learn how to use things like augmented reality in your teaching. These are the future windows that open, and if you're paying attention, you'll get a glimpse of how education will be in 10 years or 15 years, because by then, augmented reality and virtual reality will be integrated into many, many aspects of education. So if you are experimenting already in health sciences, there are many, many solutions that offer augmented reality for learning in engineering, in the health sciences, in the human sciences as well. The next thing I want to talk about is the student expectations. What we've found is that we are in a profound transformation socially from an epoch of mass production where everyone had to buy their own CD or record or tape to an era of mass personalization where you have millions of songs on your phone and you have a service like Spotify to recommend the songs to you. This is a transformation that's occurring in every aspect of our life. If we talk about navigation, we used to have to buy paper maps. The first time I visited Brazil was in 2002, and I needed to have a map. Today, I have a map of the whole world on my phone. I can travel anywhere in Brazil, and the phone will guide me there. So this kind of transformation is also occurring in healthcare, where we see the old mass production model being replaced by mass personalization using DNA. For the health scientists in this conference, you realize that the transformation is fundamental. As we learn more about DNA and the genetic opportunities, we can take advantage of them in education as well. Even the vaccines that we are taking for the COVID-19 virus have been influenced by this technology with the use of the RNA version of the vaccine for Pfizer and others. These are things that are happening also in education, where our model, which is delivering the same lesson to all students at the same time, has been a mass production model for a very, very long time. Today, we are experimenting with the new frontier of mass personalization, where we are teaching the right lesson to the right student at the right time. This is the definition of the future of education. If we can deliver the right lesson to the right student at the right time, then we will have personalized the learning process. And there are many, many organizations, Arizona State University being one of them, that are investing a great deal of time and energy and money in this process. So I'll talk more about this as we get into the program a little bit more, but just keep in mind, this is really the goal of what we're doing with our technology. So let me give you a little bit of a preview of how that technology is helping our students, because the third element that we're talking about is every student has unique educational needs. This has always been true for the entire history of humanity. The problem was we didn't have any way to respond to this need. Today we do. We use a product in college algebra that allows us to have more insight into the student learning experience. Our old process of mass personalization was a black box. We could not answer very basic questions such as who needs help? What do they need help with? What's the best way to help? These are the questions that teachers are asking themselves every day as they work with their students. And as you think about the challenge we face, without technology, it's virtually impossible to answer these questions for large groups of students. In this case, we tore open the black box using technology, and we discovered that you can actually develop a personalized learning program using a tool like ALEKS, which is spelled A-L-E-K-S. It's from a company called McGraw-Hill. And what you're looking at here is a graph of 100 students and their personalized learning path in college algebra. On the vertical axis, we had 370 topics that were selected by our professors as part of this course. And you're looking at a timeline on the horizontal axis from August to December. So this is a graph that shows what students did in this course. The first thing I want you to notice is that the students all start in different places in the curriculum. The technology does an initial knowledge check, and it analyzes how much a student already knows about algebra. Most of our students have taken algebra in high school, so they already have some background. Now, in our old model, we didn't know that because we did not have the ability to assess the students. But now we know some students start with virtually no knowledge, and they work very hard until they can successfully complete the course. So this student went from 0 to hero in one semester. We also have students who start the class with over half of the curriculum complete. And we cannot teach these two students the same way. If we are teaching the same lesson to this student and this student, one of them will be very bored and the other one will be very overwhelmed. So we have stopped doing that. Today, the technology allows us to personalize the learning path. And you're looking at a student who completes the course in October. So we've changed our teaching model, and this student will take the final exam in October. The other student will take the final exam in December. So using the technology, we can begin to change our pedagogy. And you have to start thinking about how this affects your ability to work with your students, because these tools are now available for anyone in the world to use. the other student we're searching for is this student who's doing well for a while and then suddenly is struggling. How do we help this student succeed the way the others did? This is the challenge we face, and these are the tools that we have to address the unique educational needs of every student. Now, when we did this, we transformed our model of mass production into a model of mass personalization, and we saw a dramatic increase. Over the 3-year period, we saw a 17 percentage point increase in our success rate. What we found was that our old model was fundamentally broken. And until we could bring technology and we could introduce the mass personalization model, we were unable to improve. So today, with the new tools and the new techniques, our students are succeeding at a much higher rate. And you can see here that we have over 10,000 students studying college algebra every year. So these are very, very big and very definitive results. These are not 10 students in a scientific study. So we've now had over 100,000 students using this mass personalization model to adapt to their unique educational needs. And the success rate has been spectacular for us. The second challenge we face is this change in the student attention. When I went to school, we did not have technology. I did not have a cell phone, and I didn't even have a computer. I was working in a traditional library with my books, and attention in class was not a problem. However, today, every student in class probably has a cell phone and is constantly distracted by the social media and the other activities in their life. So when we look at what's happening in our environment, we are losing control. We have lost control of the student attention. This is a classroom full of computers. Every one of these students has a computer now, and they're all listening to a traditional lecture. Now, that is a very ineffective way to teach, because adding technology to the traditional teaching process does not necessarily improve the learning. In this case, you'll notice there is technology everywhere in this classroom, and yet the student is looking at baby pictures. I looked at several of these other computers. There are movies students are watching. There are other baby photos. So I tell you very frankly, technology is not the solution. It is a tool. And the second part of this process is introducing interactive learning. So what does that mean? Let me give you some ideas here. There is a framework called ICAP, which I recommend you read. This is a paper that was written by Dr. Chi, who's a professor at Arizona State University, and Dr. Wiley in 2014. It's called the ICAP framework. You can Google it. The ICAP framework looked at these areas, category, characteristic, examples of learning activities, and the hypothesis around the learning. And what they found was there are 4 types of learning. There's passive learning. Right now, most of you are engaged in passive learning. You are listening to me lecture you while you're very passive, or maybe you're even looking at your phone, checking on your social media while I'm talking. So the second form of learning is active learning. That is the A. That's where you're taking notes, you're engaging more in the learning process. The third is constructive, where we're talking to one another. I'm asking you questions, you're giving me a response. And the final one, which is the I, is interactive. And that's where you're talking to your classmates, you're talking to each other. And this is the ultimate goal. We want to move from passive to interactive learning. Each time that you change your pedagogy, your students will improve their learning outcomes by 8 to 10%. This is a study that looked at thousands of other studies and found that this is very consistent. If you change from passive lecturing to interactive engagement in your class, you will find your students are doing better on the exams and you have recaptured their attention. So we are focusing our pedagogical transformation on interactive learning and how we can do that better. Things like discussion, debate, problem solving, case studies. In the health sciences, we do scenario analysis where we give students a series of facts and they have to diagnose the patient. This is a much more productive learning experience. So when you look at our classrooms today, they are not large lecture halls. They are rooms that have teams of students working. You can think of this as the flipped classroom. If you've ever heard of that term, it's commonly referred to as blended, flipped, or hybrid class. So all of our classes now are moving towards this kind of interactive learning, where the students are working together in the process. Now, we need technology to do that, so we use online learning before class, and I hope you've heard of Bloom's taxonomy. If you have not, you can Google that also. It's a form of different learning levels, starting with remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And then you can see here, we can use an online system to help students remember and understand, which gives us time in class to do interactive learning. We found that there's a new balance that we are developing, a new model for education that helps our students learn better. Now, when we talk about the interactive experience, we have now eliminated the lecture. Our professors have videotaped all of their lectures and the students watch them before class. When they come to class, they work on what I call professional skills. Sometimes these are referred to as 21st century skills. Things like collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity. These are the skills that will distinguish your graduates from other university graduates. The ability to do these things well is fully integrated into the educational experience now at Arizona State University. We want our students not only to understand the science, but also to understand how to use the science to solve problems. When we did this, we found that two things happened. First of all, our withdrawal rate, which is the number of students who pay for the course but do not finish, went down from 20% to less than 2%. We attribute that to the interactivity in class, the social network that the students are forming. When they form a social network in class, they are less likely to quit and withdraw. And this has been shown over and over again. We've done this with biology, chemistry, mathematics, psychology, even philosophy and history. It's not just the hard sciences. This is something that's happened over and over again. We also found that the students do better on the exams. So our success rate went from 72% to 94%. And this is something that we have seen year after year. Students are succeeding at a higher rate and they're continuing on in the sciences. So we're excited about interactive learning because it's a cornerstone of our model. And the final point I want to make is the transformation of the instructor. The professor is changing from lecturer to leader. And this is important because I'm talking about an identity crisis. For over 2,000 years, professors were lecturers. the Greeks gave us the amphitheater so that they could project their voice using this architectural technology to reach thousands of people. Now, we still used that 150 years ago when we started building large lecture halls. And then 50 years ago, we still had the same technology using the amphitheater to amplify the voice, but we added in chalkboards and microphones. And then, of course, 20 years ago, we switched to whiteboards, but it's the same as the Greeks 2,000 years ago. So now we're faced with this dilemma of a broken pedagogy and new technology. So the shift in the actions of the professor are critical here. You have to stop lecturing and start leading your students in problem-solving exercises. And that process takes time, it takes creativity, and it takes some resources. Now, we've invested in Arizona State University almost 10 years in this transformation process. So we have stopped the lecturing process and we have started the leading process. This is a professor in science, in biology, and she organizes her class so that every week the students have an interactive exercise in class. Sometimes they extract DNA from strawberries. Sometimes they do a forensic analysis of a crime scene. Sometimes they do an exercise on genetically modified organisms. Each of those interactive exercises gives her, the professor, a chance to lead the students in a problem-solving process. So the new role and the new identity of the professor is leader. And that is a very, very important role for the future of our students so that they get the knowledge and the skills they need to be successful. As I mentioned, we have rebuilt our classroom space. So you can see the technology in this classroom is oriented towards the group problem solving, the teamwork that each of these tables is doing as part of their learning process. So I don't want you to be frightened by this. I want you to be excited about it because there are many, many things to do. And there are many, many jobs for professors. It's not an elimination of the professor. The professors are going to create digital content, videotaping lectures, creating other elements. They're going to construct the instructional systems. You have to build the online technology in Moodle or in Google Classroom or in Blackboard or Canvas. So these are important activities. Their teachers are also going to evaluate the students' learning, just like a doctor evaluates the patient. The professor evaluates the student learning process. They also will provide individual instruction as they identify who needs help. The professor can respond to that individual student's need. And then finally, the leading of group problem solving exercises. This is what is transforming the learning experience in universities in Arizona and elsewhere. I like to finish with this quote: "We never change the existing reality by fighting, or never change anything by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." This is our challenge. This is what I want to encourage you to do. Build a new model for your university, for your course, for your students, so that you never have to lecture again. And you can spend the rest of your career engaging your students in exciting interactive exercises that challenge them to think about the use of the knowledge that you want them to master. So I thank you for your attention, Obrigado, and I hope that we have a chance to work together in the future as you experiment with these new techniques and new technologies. And I pass the microphone back to Kelly.
Thank you, Professor. Your talk is so interesting. Now we have some questions and some curiosities about your work. We read these questions in YouTube and receive by new technology, WhatsApp. Okay? Let me start. I think I would like appropriate the new vocabulary and then change the lecture to the leader. And then we have one question with the one leader of the institution. The name is Verlaine. She asked the question. We live in a moment of acceleration in history, in education models and the differential opportunity in the job market. In our opinion, which frontiers of innovation in education are the most difficult to cross?
I would say the pedagogical frontier. We have to relearn how to teach. When we think about where our students will be in 10 years, they will be in meeting rooms, solving problems. They will be online, working in teams. They will be collaborating with Portugal and United States and the Argentina, the neighbors in Latin America. They will be living in a dynamic, problem-solving world, and we have to prepare them for that. Our old model is static and is broken. It does not meet the needs of our students in the future, and we have to look ahead. We have to be leaders ourselves in order to look out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, to say, this is where our students will be successful. And I think that's the biggest challenge for us, is crossing that pedagogical frontier, learning everything you can about interactive pedagogy, and then using it, and resisting the urge to go back to being a lecturer.
Thank you, Professor. This is a good way, yes. About the second question, it's about the difficult things. Here in our institution, we have one little program about the adaptive learning. We call the acronyms for this program ALEX.
Yes.
And then in this program we have some students, beginners at the moment, and we have two problems: the mathematical, and the second problem is the idiom. What do you think? The big problem in this case is real mathematical, or the idiom is the barrier, the real barrier?
So this is a challenge. Both of them are languages. Mathematics is a language, and English, Spanish, Portuguese are languages. And I understand the difficulty. The ALEX program is in English and Spanish. So it's very difficult for a student who only speaks Portuguese to master the language. What we've found is you have to come up with another tool to translate the program. We discovered the Google Chrome translator as an extension on the Google Chrome browser, and that translates from Spanish to Portuguese or English to Portuguese quite well. So students who don't understand the idioma will be able to use additional technologies. Ultimately, we want a system in Portuguese. That is the goal. we want to have a native language program so that students don't have to focus on the language, they can focus on the mathematics. At this time, the options are limited. So you have to work with the technology as it is developing. But my challenge to you is to find companies in Brazil that are working in educational publishing and form a partnership with them so that you can get the instructional resources in Portuguese using those other technologies. I think you will find there are many companies who are innovative and are looking for opportunities to develop Portuguese language instructional resources. I think that there's a very, very entrepreneurial spirit in Portugal with all of the private universities and all of the companies in technology. Hopefully you can find a good partner to work with you on that.
This information is good for our students and for us, because sometimes we try to learn another language, but the escape up it's so easy. Yeah.
Now there's one other technique you can use in Alex. I know Alex very well because we've been using it for 5 years. You can attach your Portuguese language videos to the English or Spanish version of Alex, so that as your students are studying, they can click on a link, and the link will have a video of your professor doing the problem in Portuguese. And that's very important because that could help eliminate that barrier of the language in the system. You have to create, we actually ended up making over 300 videos for our students because our professors wanted to be able to present the solution to the students just like they used to in their lecture. And that means that we went into the video studio. And by the way, even with your phone now, you can make a very good video. They have very high quality video capabilities now. So I've seen professors make videos on their phone and post them to YouTube. It's free. And then you link YouTube to Alex or whatever other technology you have.
It's so great. Yeah. We have a question about our leader, Bianca. She asked how the students have interest for lectures of out class.
So there is a huge challenge to get the students to do the work before class. This is a universal problem. It's not just Brazil, it's America. I've worked in Vietnam, I've worked in Russia, and I see the same problem. We had to create an incentive structure to motivate our students to do the work before class. So what we did is we came up with a two-step process. The first step we call acquisition of knowledge, where the students watch the video, they read the book online, they do the exercise that they've been assigned. And the second step is the assessment, where they have to take a quiz. And these two steps, before they come to class, enable the professor to verify that the students actually understand the material. The second step is something that we have to incentivize the students to do. So we give them between 20 and 40% of their grade to complete the online assessments. You can do those assessments in any one of your systems, in Moodle or Google Classroom or Canvas or Blackboard, D2L. all of those systems allow the professors to place assessments online. So by giving students the 20% of their grade, we are motivating them to do the work. When we started, we didn't do that, and they did not complete the work. They would come to class, they didn't watch the video, they didn't read, and everybody was upset. So we discovered that we needed to motivate them with that. Now, that 20% of their final grade is balanced by the tests. In biology, they take 4 tests in class. So those tests are each worth 20% of their grade also. So there's a balance there that you have to determine. In one case, in math, we went all the way to 40% to get the students to do the work in advance. 40% of their grade is based upon the pre-class assessments. So you have to be creative when you're trying to motivate the students. And the second piece of that process is we had to teach the students how to work in teams. When they sit down in a classroom, they may not have any experience working with their classmates because our old model is focused on the teacher. The new model is focused on the team. So these are 2 different challenges. And what we do is we help the students learn how to be good teammates. Just like the Brazilian football players have to learn how to be a good teammate in order for the national team to win the Olympic gold medal and the World Cup. These are the things that we're teaching our students in class. Be a good teammate, work collaboratively, communicate clearly, think creatively. Those are all skills that they may not have. So these are challenges that are natural, but as our students get into this approach, the new pedagogy, they are much happier. And even the professors tell me they will never go back to lecture. They are so happy to have been taught the new approach that they don't want to be a lecturer anymore.
Thank you for your words. I think these words represented not the future but the present, no? Because we have this situation every day, and the team is good solution. Yeah. Professor, we have not too much time to finish this transmission, but I have one curiosity now, just a little bit curiosity. Your career is, I read your CV, and in your CV I saw you was a student in AAS, solar engineer technology, and after studied the architecture in Arizona State University. After study architecture in Universitat Politécnica da Catalunya, and after made the master in public politics. Why do you decide develop your study about the education?
So I've always been searching for bigger and bigger problems to solve. When I started my education, I thought I was going to be working as a solar engineer for 40 years. And I got my degree in solar engineering in 1982. So I was probably 30 years ahead of the rest of the world. And I thought I was going to solve the world's problem. It turned out that solar engineering wasn't the solution. So I moved to the next problem, which was architecture. And after I learned about architecture, I realized the problem was really public policy. How do we set the rules and create a marketplace to save the world? And after I graduated, one of my professors invited me to participate in a problem-solving process for the president of our university. And I was excited about that, so I began to work in education. And this happened just as technology was starting to emerge. So I began to combine my technology and engineering experience with my educational experience. And 30 years later, I've worked on hundreds of teams with thousands of colleagues all over the world. And it's given me the opportunity to solve big problems. So I'm hoping that this talk will help you solve your problems and get your students excited so that they can be successful when they graduate.
Thank you. I saw your slides 16 and 17 and good figures about the evolution. And then I think that your spirit of the engineer is not so past. Yeah.
Once an engineer, always an engineer.
Yes. Professor, do you have some tips for our students in this finished moment?
To the students, I would say join a group, join a club. If you're in engineering, join the engineering club. If you like biology, join the biology club. Become a member of a community. If you want to learn more about something, then become a member of that community. When I was very young and I wanted to learn about solar energy, I didn't have any professors who knew anything about that in high school. So I began to write letters to other professors at universities, and I made my own community. So I want you to be inspired and take the initiative to create your community, whether it's by joining another group or by forming your own group, because that's where you'll find happiness as a professional. When you find your community and you feel like you're making a significant contribution for your city, for your state, for your country, and for the world.
Okay. Professor, and then I and my colleagues would like to acknowledge in the agreements for your talking. We would like to thank you and our audience now for this participation in our meeting. And now we would like to finish our talk now, but I think if the persons like, could you put your questions in our chat on the YouTube, and after we pass these questions for Professor. I think Sandra finished our talk in Portuguese now.
Agradecemos imensamente então ao professor Dale por sua fala e também aos componentes desta mesa, a professora Kelly e o professor Douglas. E neste momento então eu peço que todos se dirijam então às salas para darmos início às apresentações. Obrigada a todos que participaram da abertura do nosso EPIC aqui da FATEB.
Thank you everyone.